for the SCA, Baroness, and the Tournai. And featuring a special performance by my Lord Brandywynne Alexander, a good friend of mine. Well, me, I'm your announcer, Master Bjorn of the Northern Sea. And here's your host, Master Laertes McBride.
Good evening and greetings. How's everyone this evening? Hope you had a good week since last we spoke. I'm just checking in. Normally at this part of the show is when I would do announcements about what's going on in Caid. That got nothing. So I hope everyone's well. I don't need to fill this time with just you looking at this face. So let's go ahead and bring in my friend Bjorn. He'll be here in just one moment. And hello, Bjorn. How are you?
I'm doing quite well. How are you, sir?
Good. Were you having a frosty beverage?
I was having a beverage that is definitely frosty, and yeah, pardon me, just
that was good. So, how
actually a mug that I can put my actual giant ham-fisted fingers in is fantastic.
And how was your week?
It was really quite good. We're not coughing from as much smoke, and there's not as much ash, and Mount Doom doesn't seem to be any closer, so that's good.
It's always a plus. Yes, and it seems that the people that need help through the disaster relief coordinator have reached out, and Bridget wants one of the mugs. This mug or this mug? So I think that's a good thing. Hopefully they're under control and people are being able to settle in and resume whatever normalcy they can have right now.
I agree.
So speaking of which, let's talk about what's going on in the arts and science area with you tonight.
Excellent. So it's at this point of the year that most all students that are supposed to go to attend classes of some kind are already enrolled and are attending classes. Now, the vast majority, and hopefully all of them, are going to be doing this in some form of distance learning, but maybe that's not the case. And perhaps what you are receiving isn't as great as you would like. Or maybe you weren't tremendously fond of the in-house concepts that your school district was doing and decided, if you had the opportunity or you were fortunate enough, to homeschool your children. And if that is the case, or if you just would like some additional some addendums or augments to your educational forays into history, that's what this particular week is going to be talking about. Now, the first one I was going to talk about is the website that is called The Middle Ages for Kids. And this one is run by a gentleman named Mr. Don. He is someone that writes history textbooks along with the other people on his website. He originally was in Navy intelligence and worked for the NSA. So it's one of those, I'm not saying use an anonymous browser, but you know. But at any rate, it's actually really neat website. It has a lot of different things to look at, and in this particular concept, art is definitely approachable for all kids. It skews a little bit more to the younger ages, but it also has things that will work for the older kids, and it has fantastic entire rows to talk about daily life. What sort of things happened in castles. And then it also talks about various eras, like who were the Franks, what happened in Constantinople, who is this Charlemagne fellow anyway, who were the Vikings, the Angles, the Saxons, who's Justinian. And so there are things that are both focused and then more broad. And the neat thing about it is that they don't claim to know everything, and they don't claim to have all of the answers to everything. And they do occasionally recommend that if people have the credentials to do so, to go ahead and send them updates to their websites, which they then publish. and let folks know that this has been changed or this is new information. And so because of that, because they do understand that history is a living thing, and as we continue to learn more about it, and we continue to more things become unearthed, we're able to more fine tune what we do know. They're not going to be quite as stodgy about it as perhaps they might have been in previous generations. The second thing I wanted to talk about is, of course, the website about excuse me, BBC Bitesize. Now, this is from bbc.co.uk. So it is the actual United Kingdom website for the BBC. And this talks about their bite-sized projects or the things that they do for specifically for children. This is broken down into 3 separate categories. The primary category goes from ages 3 to 11, although there are some things that if you have a precocious toddler and you want to throw some of that stuff at them, I think it might definitely work. Then they have the secondary, which they are talking about is 11 to 16, and then they have post-16, which we would consider post-secondary, and that's 16 plus in age. And they have lesson plans and videos and websites that you can go to. And these are granted, they are skewed more towards European history, but they also have a lot of other things that you can go to and look at. And I heartily recommend that. The third thing I want to talk about is we don't generally talk about paid sites very often. And this one is definitely sort of a hit and miss in regards to a specific topic. But for those of us who do have, say, Netflix or HBO, whatever, there's 19,000 versions of HBO. Then on Hulu, they have something that they call Horrible Histories. Now, Horrible Histories is also something that comes out of the UK. And this is this has, so let's just say you have a young person that their attention span might not quite be available for 30 solid minutes, but you really want to try and see if you can't get some history jammed into their ears. Then I think Horrible Histories is something that you might want to enjoy. Now, it does go beyond the SCA time scheme, of course. As a matter of fact, the first one talks about World War I. It talks about a young boy dealing with various Georgian monarchs, plus other things. So it does bounce around a lot. But if you want to find particular episodes, they are all available on Hulu, or of course you can purchase them from their actual website for horriblehistories.uk. But at any rate, for those of you that are either augmenting your child's education that they're receiving from whatever distance learning or whatever sort of split learning concepts that they're getting, or if you are homeschooling your young ones because you're concerned about any sort of transmissions with COVID or what have you, I wish you all the absolute best of luck. And I hope that these sites are in some small way able to give you some levity and also some education for your young ones.
That's awesome. I'll have to check out the bite-sized one. Sounds like fun.
They really did seem to be really neat. Now the people that I looked to for guidance were parents that are in the SCA. In particular, Magdalena Concobar, who is in Gladenfeld, which is a barony in Meridies, and then Alexandra Heather of the Isles, as should be mentioned, and she's in Callantyre, and she's in the barony of Curdinonwy. So I want to give a shout out to those 2 young ladies. Thank you very much. Thank you for your guidance with those. I do appreciate it, and good luck with your respective groups of little ones, because they have a lot of little ones in their own houses. Right,
and then of course, for our viewers at Atenfeld, they're going to have difficulty because their dial-up modems probably aren't fast enough to get the video. So good luck.
They have a lot of solar there. You'd be surprised. I mean, the sun shines. I mean, they even have a sun on their device. So the sun is everywhere. It's got to power all kinds of things. You can't sell them short, Laertes. Not on this one.
Anyway, sure. I can, though. So let's talk about our first guest this evening. Who do we have for our first guest?
We are very fortunate that we are able to have our guest, which is the social media officer for the SCA, and it is Baroness Anne de Tournai. She is a Pelican and a Laurel in Lochac, who is our society officer, which is now an actual officer. And we're just really fortunate that we were able to span the entire globe and have a conversation with her.
Right. So I'm going to put you in timeout, and we're going to bring in our interview with Her Excellency. Hi, how are you?
I'm very well, Master Laertes. How are you?
I'm great. Or should I say, good day? I speak Australian.
No, you're very fluent.
I really appreciate you taking time out, because there's a huge gap of hours between where it is for you and where it is for me. So I really do appreciate you taking extra time to come on the show this evening and talk about what you do. So speaking of which, as social media officer for the society, so my understanding your office reports to the Seneschal, is that what it is, or does it report to the president?
No, I report to the board. So earlier this year there was a change, and the social media officer is now a full corporate office. So I obviously report to the president in his role as the day-to-day operations manager, but my role is direct to the board.
Okay, so basically you are the focal point of the social media kind of efforts society-wide, right? You kind of set the parameters, the guidelines, all that kind of stuff of what could and should not be done. Is that kind of correct?
Yep. Absolutely. It's all about creating those safe spaces where we can have great conversations and share what we do.
Right. So during the challenge of the current plague we've been in, I think you've seen a lot of increase on the social media presence, not just from the society side, but from members of the populace. Now, could you kind of talk to us about what the society's been doing and embracing to kind of widen their footprint on the social media aspect?
So there's been a range of things. First of all, it was putting in place guidelines to make sure that people in the populace could actually speak to their kingdoms and speak to the known world, because we've seen there's a wonderful explosion of content right across the known world, from bardic to amazing online collegia, people sharing their time and sharing their knowledge. So that's been really amazing. We've also seen some of our other society officers start to do more teaching online, and our diversity, equity, and inclusion officer, Baroness Zara, is obviously a very visible face. There is more things planned to come. So currently looking at having some board members and the president talk on topical town halls and other key society officers. So you'll start to see the society page do more live streaming.
Oh, that's great. And so I've noticed is there was that have a conversation with a member of the board, I believe, that was put out a few weeks ago. And so there'll be more of that kind of interactive opportunities to hear directly from the board, is what you're saying?
Absolutely. So you've seen some of the video messages coming out from our board members, because we know that people receive information in different ways. So we want to make sure that people actually know who represent them and who are there to guide and support them, and why we're making the choices we are. So it's all about educating, informing, and connecting.
Right, and we've had a good opportunity, much like you appearing on our show, to speak with several members of the organization. You know, we had Bear Killer on here, and we had the soon-to-retire Society Marshal, and actually, I think we had the Ombudsman for Caid on here to kind of hear and get an idea of what really happens on the society level and how it affects what the kingdoms do. So I know there's been a lot of changes and guidance and such on the social media aspect for what kingdoms and individuals could do. If you were to kind of give a quick, like a summary of what people should kind of, I know it's kind of a Herculean task, a quick summary of the kind of guidelines people should look for, what they should avoid if they want to have a social media posting that's directly related to SCA activities. Is there something we should really kind of stay away from and really be focused on?
I suppose it's probably better to some ways think about the fact that our online space isn't actually any different to our face-to-face space. We think of it, it's a good separation thing for us as humans, but they're actually all just the SCA. And Corpora has always said that we should be appropriate and respectful with members of our community. That's in the rules now. It's been in there almost from the start. And so if you're interacting online, think about how you'd interact at an event. Think about how, if you were having a chat with somebody else, you'd talk. So it's pretty much about displaying the same courteous behaviour that you would in face-to-face that you do online. It's a difficult year and people are stressed. So remember that people are doing their best, and when you can, be kind.
Yeah, I think that's probably the guideline is just try to be kind. You know, there's no need for anything else out there. I think that's great. And, you know, I've seen a lot of other content that's not Kingdom or Office specific. I mean, there's this fabulous show that we do here, but there's also been
very fabulous.
Oh, see, I was searching for a compliment. But there's also been an explosion of a lot of other shows out there too. I mean, there's Between Two Peers, and I'm sure you could probably rattle off a couple of more.
Oh, I'd like to give a plug for Crowns Between Two Roses, which is being done by two of the Lochac countesses. They are currently interviewing as many of the sitting crowns of the known world as they can, talking to them about their experiences. The goal is to make the known world a little bit closer and a little bit bigger all at the same time.
Right. And you know, I'd love to get them on here and talk about their show and the experiences of talking to the crowns, because I know, I mean, it's very apparent just going online that the experience that the different kingdoms are having are kind of different, honestly. Where do you live in your kingdom? What
so I'm in the Australian part of Lochac. So I'm in the Barony of Politicopolis, which I am quite proud of. And that is the Australian Capital Territory, with some of our cantons sort of in the surrounding area.
Right. So you're the current Baroness of the area, correct?
Yeah. Yes. So I have a little bit of pride.
Oh, yeah. It's an awesome job. We were talking offline about it. So the experience that you guys have had during the pandemic, are you following the North American guidelines that everything's shut down, or y'all open up a little bit? How's it going out there right now?
So because we're an affiliate in Lochac, we run under the rules of the two boards for Australia and New Zealand that run, and obviously they work incredibly closely with the Society Board. But we are in a very fortunate state that we have been able to open up in some areas of our countries. My current local area has not actually had an active case in 11 weeks. So we have resumed COVID-safe face-to-face activities.
Oh, that's fantastic. And hopefully the North American version of it will get down that path also, so we can open up and see each other in person, as opposed to pieces of glass, as we've been having to do over the past few years. Not years, months. Seems like years. And
it's not the mileage.
Yes, no kidding. You know, at this point, I think it's pretty much when we turn it over to my dear friend Bjorn for a few questions. Bjorn, do you have any questions for Her Excellency?
Yes, I do. One of the things I wanted to ask about is, how do you determine the criteria for what is applicable to social media policy? How do you determine things that you can or should rule on versus things that you might not rule on as it pertains to the social media policy for the SCA?
So in many ways, first of all, we go to our existing rule set, because the reason that the Office of Social Media tends to sit with the Office of the Seneschalate is because it's actually not as much about communication as it is about behaviour. So we've got all of the existing society rule sets in terms of corpora, our policies, our core values, and that's probably our first space where we look at them. If you're on an official SCA space, which has been our practice for a number of years, that's obviously something that you're looking at. The board are currently having discussions to look at how we create fair and consistent rules to make sure that people know where the boundaries are. But I'll go back to my earlier statement in terms of the thing, like, we're the same volunteers that you are. Like the Office of Social Media right across all the known world is not vast and faceless. They're the same people you play with, that you see, that your friends are. We're not actively going and policing personal pages. We just don't, A, have time, or B, interest. You're all fascinating people, but there's only so much time and we all like to sleep. So it's really about just looking occasionally at those situations that come to our notice.
Thank you. Another thing that I was going to ask about is one of the things that I see in many of the materials regarding social media is this and that regarding approved platforms. And
Yep.
I was wondering if you could you please explain to me what the phrase approved platforms means in regards to social media?
So if you think about social media, like people get hung up on tools a lot of the time, but really social media is an online conversation facilitated by. So that's really what it is. So if the SCA Incorporated can basically, you can make a comment to them and we or one of our representatives amongst the kingdoms or regional groups can respond back to you, that's likely to be covered within the scope of our policy. We have a range of currently approved tools that we've looked at and gone, yep, this is a really safe space. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Discord is the newest one, YouTube. We're looking at a range of different options at the moment, and groups are invited, if they'd like to test a particular platform, to talk to their kingdom social media officers, and they'll let me know.
Well, the last thing I wanted to ask about is you had mentioned earlier, as had Laertes, and I've talked about it from time to time, about the Known World Entertainment Guide and the various plethora of really fantastic shows. Obviously, you guys were talking about Between Two Peers and the wonderful Lochac show you're talking about. There's Murder of Dukes. There's Outlands Tea. There's so many that are just coming out. Rosie Speaks. So many that are just filling various niches within our society. Do you see, especially once activities sort of resume somewhat some semblance of normalcy, if we ever truly get there again, do you see these continuing to be tools in the toolbox of social media, or do you think some of these will peel away, or might we even add on to this, since, as it has been said, our social media space and our face-to-face space really are in many ways the same thing?
I think it's been one of the joys of our plague year, and those might have been a bit few and far between. So I think the explosion of online content has just been an absolute joy across the known world, and our kingdoms have really responded brilliantly. Like, you know, people stepping up in the way that you guys have with your own program, but as you said, in all of the different aspects. So I see that there's a huge opportunity for the society to connect and to continue to actually grow in this space. If you think about it, people have had the opportunity this year to, you know, take collegia in like slightly odd times of the morning, depending on where you're going. But people are learning and connecting right across the known world in a way we've never done before. So I think there is a continuing space for the known world.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. I appreciate that very much.
All righty. Well, Bjorn got 3 questions in this week. I mean, he must have been really engaged. And you can tell he does research and I just kind of wing it. But I can say from our side of the conversation, at least Bjorn and I really appreciate the support that the society's given us and kind of the availability of you and fellow officers to come on and talk about what they do and to talk about our show and the other shows that are out there to try to raise awareness. So I know that, you know, from my side of it, I really do appreciate the support that you've shown, and the fact that you're up way early to talk to us today really does mean a lot. And going from being sincere, now it's time to play a little game. So are you ready for this? I can tell.
I'm not sure if we'll ever be ready, but you know, let's go.
I can tell you're super excited about it.
It's the coffee.
So Bjorn, what's the name of this week's game?
Today's game is It's Social Hour.
That's right. So as social media officer for the society, I thought I would, we could go through some quick true or false social media statements, and you can tell me whether they're accurate or not, because I know that you research all this stuff all the time, right? Yes. True or false, and the audience plays along at home too. True or false, Facebook drives 50% of all traffic across the internet. True or false?
I would say false.
Okay. Well, why? What would you guess?
I would say maybe 10.
Oh, you're correct. It's false, but it's 23% of all traffic on the internet. So if you're having a slow internet connection, blame Facebook. Speaking of Facebook, true or false, the median number of friends the average millennial Facebook user has in their network is 250. So
I might say true for that one.
that is true. 250. That means I have plenty more friends than my average millennial. It makes me feel good as an old man. Okay, so going to Twitter now. Twitter, right? So the bird featured in Twitter's iconic logo is called Larry.
Oh, this one's going to totally be a stab in the dark, and one should never stab birds in the dark. It's very difficult.
Oh, well, especially in Australia. They'll kill you.
Yeah, got to watch out for drop bears. I would say false.
Oh, I'm sorry, it is true, because Larry was named after the Boston Celtics forward Larry Bird. It's an American game. They play with a round ball and stuff. Yeah. Okay. So LinkedIn. Okay. So last year, true or false, the most overused word in LinkedIn profiles was motivated.
Oh, I say that's possibly true.
It is true, although the most used word on mine is "please hire me." It's more a phrase. Two to go. You're doing great. And by the way, true or false? Sydney is the most frequently geotagged city on Instagram.
Look, national pride would like me to say yes, but I don't think that would be correct.
Right. It is false. Do you have an idea what city it would be?
I'm wondering if it's like London or New York.
Yeah, right. It's New York City. Very much. Okay. So finally, you've done great. True or false? Historical recreation is the most popular category on Pinterest.
There's an awful lot of pet stories on Pinterest. I'm thinking, look, we're incredibly popular, but maybe not number one.
Okay, yeah, that's true. I'm just trying to make us feel good about what we do. Well, so you think it's pets on Pinterest is number one?
I'm going with either weddings or children, weddings or babies. It's got to be something like that.
Oh, wow. Oh, no.
Or diet.
Close. Honestly, 57% of users report interacting with food and drink posts. So,
wow.
Well, the food and drink might lead to marriage and babies photos on Pinterest. So, depending what you're drinking.
Look, as a culinary laurel, I support that. So.
So that's pretty much it. I really do appreciate, like I said earlier, everything that your office and the corporation as a whole is doing to support us through these crazy times and helping us interact and connect and have those conversations we would love to have face to face. And I think part of the opportunity of going through the social media, as you're overseeing, is me being able to talk to someone that's over in Australia right now and finding about what's going on. And really, we had a great conversation for coming on air of all the things we do have in common and the fun that we have when we're able to get together. So I do appreciate your time and the support that you're showing for all of this. And, anytime you need to come on to talk about changes in social media, we're here. And that's pretty much it. Bjorn, you want to say anything?
I just wanted to say thank you very much, Your Excellency, for speaking with us about this today, especially since it's so easy, considering the ubiquity of social media, how then people think they would automatically understand it, especially as it pertains to the society. And that may not necessarily be the case. So it's always good to have a guiding hand, especially one that commands so lightly as yours.
We're here to help. That's really what the message is. If you have a question or if you need some support, we are here to help. That's what we do.
Well, that's great. Well, have a great rest of your day. Watch out for the wallabies. And see, I'm a native. And hopefully we will talk again soon. You have a great rest of your day, though. Thank you.
I look forward to it. Thank you both, gentlemen.
But you can hear me now, and now you can hear Bjorn. Hi, Bjorn.
Yep.
What a fascinating, insightful lady to have on the show.
You know, I think that one of the best things about Baroness Anne, beyond the fact that fellow Laurel, is that she is so engaging and so very positive about wanting to make sure that we are all positively engaged with each other. And since it's all too easy to see negativity, and we all pretty much do see negativity in some aspect of our online presences, whether it's something that we engage in or not, it's which wolf do you feed kind of thing. So I'm very happy that we have someone that is really a bright presence to help guide the SCA in that way.
Right. And let's give a shout out to Meliora, who is our Kingdom social media officer. And she's doing a fabulous job. So.
And I'll just go ahead and say right now to you, Meliora, that yes, during the pre-show, the three of us were singing her praises. So just deal with the iniquity of being adorable, because it's going to happen for you. So,
bam. So now who do we have coming on for the last half of the show tonight?
We have a really good friend of mine and a bunch of other people. He has performed inside the SCA at fair and also in the mundane space with myself, with Mistress Fenella Harper, and a lot of other great performers. And it is my Lord Brandywynne Alexander, the Nubian Bard of Altavia. So we're very happy to have him with us this evening.
All righty. Well, let's bring him on right quick. And he'll be on right about now. Hi.
Well, greetings and salutations. Are you able to hear me? Yes.
I am able to hear you. So.
Oh, good. And hello to you.
Yeah. So, are you having a grand evening?
Oh, it's quite lovely here. Yes. Although I reside with my lovely wife Violet in Altavia, my day takes me to the Barony of the Angels every day. So I'm still sitting out here.
Well, yeah. Well, there's worse places to be. You could have to drive to Aidenville. So
being surrounded by seraphim is not a bad thing.
Yeah,
that's true. Just a little bit of history. How long have you been in the SCA? And been a member?
Well, my first experience with the SCA was back in Potrero back in 1990. I'd actually had experience with Renaissance fairs. My second grade class used to sell felt Robin Hood hats. We'd walk around with this gigantic staff covered with different colored hats that we made and yelled, "Hats for sale!" And introduced to the SCA, like I said, in 1990. Met Her Excellency Velma, the harpist to the Purple Dragon. And she adopted me and taught me some more music that I wanted to learn, and have been playing for various and sundry SCA events ever since.
Great. And so do you have a extensive musical background, or what kind of got you into performing and musical instruments and singing and such?
Well, as it turns out, my maternal grandfather, great-grandfather rather, was a violinist and he taught me at the tender age of 5 how to play "You Are My Sunshine" on the keyboard. And ever since then, I ended up going to musical school, took up the recorder, and eventually flute, clarinet, even the accordion, much to many people's chagrin. And just been in love with music ever since. And meeting people who were in Renaissance Fair and in the SCA because of that period of music, it felt quite well as a great fit with the recorder experience that I have. And I've been playing recorder now for, let's see, today is Monday, so about 49 years.
So how many instruments do you say you play well? Because I can play a bunch of instruments, just not well.
Yeah.
How many would you play well?
I'd say most all voices of the recorder. I've got pretty much covered. I actually play with a wonderful group called the Los Angeles Recorder Orchestra when we're able to, convene. But flute is my primary instrument, and I also am a vocalist. I'm a tenor. As a matter of fact, I'm hoping at some point in time that Bjorn and I will be able to do some performing together.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. So you're going to have 2 pieces that you're going to perform for us this evening. Now, you do it in a kind of unique way because you are such multi-talented performer. You want to talk about kind of the production of it and the first piece that we're going to see this evening?
Well, sure. Now, I don't recall if you were playing which one we're going to play first. But there are 2 pieces.
You tell me.
Okay. I'm thinking that we can start with the more somber. It's a choir mass written by Cristobal de Morales called Misa sobre las Voces, and it's the Kyrie eleison movement of this piece. It's a very church, very somber, very kind of intertwined, and the lyrics are pretty much Kyrie eleison all the way through. But a beautiful piece, very, very beautiful piece. And putting it together, since I really can't collect different recorder players to play with me, I recorded myself playing each of the instruments and used a wonderful program online called Filmora, and put all 4 of me onto one screen with the dedicated and extremely helpful help from my lovely bride, Violet Alexander.
Well, that's awesome. So let's bring that piece on. Misa sobre, right?
Yes.
All righty. So let's have a gander, and we'll be right back.
Okay. The Kyrie eleison from Misa sobre las Voces by Cristobal de Morales.
Okay, so we don't get that weird reverb. That was very nice. That is nothing like the Mr. version of Kyrie Eleison.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, or maybe even, Crowded House perhaps doing their version, but I thought, yeah, stick to the classics.
But that was amazing. Oh my gosh. So the different recorders that you were using, do they have a different name for each one? Or?
Yes. The from smallest to largest was the soprano recorder, which is that one that I was playing as a rosewood one that my mom gave me. She was the one who actually taught me the recorder in school because she was actually originally my music teacher. Then the next size down is an alto recorder. The next size down is tenor. And then the largest one is called a bass recorder. Now, the recorders were actually kind of created to mimic human voices from the standpoint of the volume of the voice. So, for example, a soprano singer would actually be matched to an alto recorder, and it kind of goes down from there.
Oh, well, that's fun.
And the term recorder actually came from the English in that they would actually try to imitate bird sounds. And so they were kind of recording bird sounds and recreating them with the instruments. It's really very interesting.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So you have a second piece you prepared for us tonight, too.
Yes, this one is a little bit of a lighter fare by, oh gosh, I just lost his name now, John Farmer. And it's called Fair Phyllis I Saw. Now, this one is kind of an English madrigal. And it's Fair Phyllis I saw sitting all alone, feeding her flock near the mountainside. The shepherds knew not where she went. So, in essence, her boyfriend went looking around, playing hide and seek, trying to find her. And then he finally found her. And then they fell a-kissing.
Scandal.
A-kissing. Oh, they fell a-kissing. Yes.
Wow. I hope the kids aren't watching the show tonight.
That's it. Yes, be careful, kids. None of that kissing stuff.
So let's see this performance.
All righty.
All right.
Can we play? Fair Phyllis, I saw. Thank you. Fair Phyllis, I saw.
All right, I want to keep it up for a second. Oh, you went away. Hold on, let me bring it back for a second. So people are asking about the different instruments that are in this segment. So you can talk to them left to right?
Yes, left to right. As my screen is the same as everybody else's, the smallest one, the darkest one closest to me, is a tenor recorder. And the one next to it is actually a bass recorder. Now, bass recorders can come either straight, like the other two on my left, or they come with a bent neck, which helps with people's fingering, so they don't have to reach as far. In this particular case, I inherited this bass from my mom, and it's got a brass neck piece, so it's kind of modern in that respect. The next one, the square-topped, cream-colored one, is a great bass. Again, great basses were designed like this. This is a different maker that became very popular in the last 50 or 60 years or so. And then finally, the big guy is a contrabass. Now, the contrabass is, well, actually, as you can see, it's much taller than I am, and it's very, very low. Now, in our orchestra, we actually have 2 more recorders that are the same design as the square great bass that are even larger than the contrabass.
Wow. Yeah, the contrabass looks like a hookah and a bassoon had a baby. So
Yeah,
that's my technical observation.
a little bit too much mead at the last fair, I guess.
Now, before I let you go, first I want to thank you very much for your performance.
Well,
The
thank you
time
very
and
much.
effort you put in to create the videos and sharing of your talents. But I have a suspicion that Bjorn wants to come in right quick and say a few things. So let's do what we don't normally see and do the split screen of 3.
This beeth your life, Sir Brandywynne Alexander. This beeth your life.
So
I'm unmuted. I have to be okay. I am now unmuted. Good. Well, now the last time I saw you in concert, you performing with Mistress Fenella Harper, and you were performing. We were at a church in downtown Los Angeles, and I can't remember exactly what you were doing there, because we all went to lunch afterwards.
Oh yes. That was we were doing a mass. It was a Sunday. I think it was an Easter mass.
I think so. Yes.
It was an Easter mass. Yes. And so playing a lot of these instruments, and even actually playing. The instruments that I play are what they consider Baroque recorders, and there are actually some Renaissance recorders as well. They're tuned a little differently. And a little bit more work to play, and they're really beautiful sounding instruments. And we were playing a lot of those.
Because I remember that there was crums and sackbuts and shawms and harpsichords. It was a beautiful group of early musicians. And as I'd said before, Mistress Fenella, who has been on our show before, is the current Bard of Caid, is an amazing performer. And that's one of the neatest things, is that I have worked with you at Potrero, where we've done filks and we've done silly things, but I've also seen you perform period music with period instruments. So it's kind of like you can run all of that. Well, to use another musical term, you run the gamut. You can do all the stuff. And so I just wanted to thank you for sharing your prodigious talent with us.
Well, thank you very much.
You know, Alexander, you're I'm a huge fan of yours, and I appreciate very much you coming on the show this evening.
I'm very honored to be here and to be on the show, and hopefully I'll be able to come by and see you again with something else. You know, you're mentioning the instruments. I used to play with a group called Sheer Pandemonium, and we actually met all together at the 1990 Potrero War, and all the instruments that I was playing, I had my accordion as well as the recorders, penny whistles, slide whistles. Our drummer, Joe, used to introduce, we'd introduce each other on the shows before we got started, and he would introduce me by listing the things that I played, and then he would say, if you can squeeze it or blow it, he can play it. And so, that's the barometer?
No, I know, that was my editing. That was a
okay.
representation of me.
We can fix that in post, though, right?
Yeah, so.
Okay, good.
Anyway, thank you again for coming on the show. It was an amazing, we'd love to have you back. And
I look very forward to it, and thank you both. You guys are doing a wonderful job. How long have you been doing the show now?
6 months.
6 months
and a week.
Yeah.
And a week. Well, I think it's wonderful. I'm looking forward to following it next week as well.
Well, thank you very much. Hopefully see you soon. Have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you both the same. Thank you.
Well, that was cool. So.
It really means that when the show is over, maybe not right after the show, but this week, I definitely am going to bend his ear a little bit about that program, because there are some pieces of music that I would like to sing. And if I could do all 4 voices and edit it myself, I don't see why not. I mean, that sounds like it'd be a lot of fun to do.
Right. And if we're playing all these different instruments and putting it this way, he is a very economical choice for a wedding band. So anyway, so let's talk about who we have coming next week. And the tough act to follow this week with Her Excellency Anne.
That's true. So we are actually broaching the month of October next week, and we have one of my cousins, but also a gentleman who is a knight in the society, Sir Niccolo, is going to be joining us next week and giving us some information and a conversation about smithing and some of the things that he does in our artistic bent. And we also I'll go ahead and say it. We created for the show a page, much like they did at SCA 50 year, for prospective bards to send in to us if they would like to be a part of the show. And we had a huge response. So I don't really know who's going to be here next week because we're still combing through all of these fantastic performers who have been filling that out for us. But of those people who are interested, please let us know. We'll put the Google Doc itself. We can put it on our page, or you can ask me for it, or you can send a request to our Gmail account because I really appreciate. I personally, it was nice to have someone from Caid, someone that I know personally, perform this week. But getting a chance to showcase talents from all across the known world, all 20 kingdoms, is what we are shooting for. We're not there yet, so we're really looking forward to having additional people come and perform for us. So I don't really know who's going to be here next week. I just know that they will be amazing.
I'm perfectly happy with just 19 kingdoms, just so you know.
Oh boy.
Anyway, thank you once again, Bjorn. Thank everyone for watching. If there's some people you would like to have a conversation with on the show, let us know. We're also looking for other guests. We have a few lined up coming up for the next few weeks, but it looks like we're going to need more. But anyway, I hope you have a good week. Bjorn, I hope you have a great week yourself.
Thank you, sir.
Join us next week when once again we will be live from Caid. We'll see you then.